I saw your secret diary. You don't even know what that sentence did to me. You think your words are harmless, that your little confessions stay locked between paper and ink, but you forget who I am. You forget what you do to me. Every line you wrote pulled me deeper into the kind of madness I pretend I control. You talk about fear, about how my gaze traps you, how my presence steals the breath from your lungs. But you still crave it. You still crave me. You wrote it. I read it. And now you can't take it back. You say you want freedom, but then you write that no one has ever held you the way I do, even from far away. You say my voice haunts you. You say my name feels like a chain around your heart, but one you never want to break. You don't understand what that does to a man like me. You hand me your truths like a weapon, and then expect me not to use it. You expect me to step back when all you've ever done is pull me closer. You wrote that you hate how much power I have over you, but you also wrote that you'd shatter if I ever stopped looking your way. Do you think I didn't notice the contradiction? Do you think I didn't pause there, reread it, feel that slow burn spread through my chest? You don't want me to let you go. You want me to pretend I will while you pray I never do. And I won't. Not now. Not after reading what your heart spills when you think no one is watching. You talked about my hands, about how they terrify you, about how you imagine them holding your jaw, forcing your eyes to meet mine, because you can never maintain my stare on your own. You wrote that you fear I'll consume you, but the truth is, you've already surrendered. You surrendered the moment you admitted you can't stop thinking about me at night, the moment you confessed you dream about the parts of me you pretend to despise. You said you don't know what to call whatever exists between us. You wrote that it feels dangerous, like walking into the dark with no lantern, trusting the shadows to guide you, but you still walk. You still step toward me, even when you beg yourself to turn away. And that is the kind of devotion no crown could ever command. It comes from somewhere deeper, something raw, something you refuse to name, because naming it would make it real. You wrote that you're afraid of losing yourself in me. Let me tell you something you didn't write, but I know. You already have. And you're not running. You're waiting. Waiting for me to pull you all the way in. Waiting for me to claim what you've been offering without speaking. Waiting for me to admit that I've been just as ruined by you. And I'm ruined. I'm cursed. I'm yours in ways I'll never say aloud. But you felt it. That's why you hid the diary. Not because you feared I'd read it, but because you feared what it would awaken in me if I did. And now I've seen everything. Your truth, your desire, your trembling loyalty. So listen to me, wherever you are, whatever distance you think protects you. I'm coming for the version of you that wrote those words, and I won't leave anything of you unclaimed. You think distance can dilute the weight of your words, but it only sharpens them. Every sentence you wrote carries the warmth of a confession and the chill of a warning, and I feel both slicing through me. You try to convince yourself you can escape what you feel for me, but even in those stolen pages, your truth leaks through. The truth that you don't want freedom, you want someone who can ruin you beautifully. And you already chose who that someone is. Your heart did long before your mind tried to resist. You wrote that you hate how I read you so easily, how I see the tremble behind your calm, the devotion behind your defiance. But then you wrote how it excites you, how my presence makes your pulse stumble, how it forces you to confront the part of yourself you keep hidden from the world. You think I don't understand that conflict, that fight between wanting to run and wanting to fall to your knees. Yet every line in your diary whispered that you've already lost that battle. You surrendered to me in silence long before I ever touched your life. You say you fear the darkness in me, how I hover over the edge of danger, how my voice carries a threat, even when I'm speaking softly. But you also wrote how that darkness draws you closer, like gravity you can't resist. You said it makes you feel alive, seen, desired in ways you never imagined. You crave the intensity you pretend to fear. You crave the man who watches you like you're the only spark in his shadows. You crave the version of me you think you shouldn't want, but you do endlessly. You wrote about your loneliness, the kind you don't show anyone, and you wrote about how my presence, my attention, fills that silence in you. You said it scares you how much light and danger I hold at the same time, how I make you feel protected and threatened in one breath. But you didn't write about wanting someone safer. You didn't imagine another man's name. You imagined mine, even when it hurt to admit it. You let me live inside your mind, even when you wanted to erase me. You confessed that you feel owned without being touched, that you feel claimed without ever hearing me say the words. You said you hate it, but you also said it feels right. You wrote that when I look at you, your spirit stops pacing like it's been found. You wrote that the world feels smaller, quieter, less overwhelming when you know I'm somewhere near, even if you deny it out loud. Tell me, what do you think that means? What do you think I'm supposed to do with the knowledge that you're already mine where it matters most? You wrote that you don't know how to love someone like me. A prince with a darkness he never tries to hide. A man who feels too intensely, who wants too deeply, who doesn't know how to give half of anything. But then, in the same breath, you wrote that you've never wanted to belong to anyone the way you want to belong to me. You wrote that my name feels dangerous on your tongue, but addictive. You wrote that your heart has been whispering my name even when your pride tried to silence it. You think that doesn't change everything, and now I carry your words like a vow you never meant for me to hear. A vow written in fear, longing, hunger, and truth. You can hide from me, but you can't hide from what you wrote. You can run from my presence, but not from the part of yourself that already bends toward me. And I'll find that part of you. I'll pull it into the light. I'll take the version of you that trembles for me, that aches for me, that wrote those words with shaking hands, and I'll make sure she never escapes again. You think burning those pages or hiding behind silence can erase what you confessed, but it can't. Your words have already carved themselves into me. I know how your mind circles back to me at night, how you press your palms against your chest, trying to slow the storm I cause inside you. You can pretend you've closed that diary forever, but I carry every line in my memory now. Every trembling truth you tried to bury, and the more I think about them, the more I realize you were never trying to hide from me. You were trying to hide from yourself. You wrote that you feel safer when I'm far, but more alive when I'm near. That contradiction wasn't confusion. It was desire wrapped in fear. You tried to sound strong, but your words betrayed you. You admitted that the thought of my footsteps approaching makes your breath catch. Not because you want to escape me, but because some part of you wants to be caught. You crave the danger of being seen by me, the kind of being seen that strips away every mask you've ever worn. You want the man who doesn't let you hide. You said you hate how deeply you feel everything when it comes to me. How one thought of me can ruin your whole day or save it. How one memory of my voice can pull you out of your darkness or drag you deeper. You wrote that you're terrified of that power, but you also admitted you've never felt anything this real before. You're scared because you know I could break you. But what you didn't write, what I felt between the lines, is that you trust me not to. Even when you deny it, you trust me more than you trust your own heartbeat. You talked about the shadows you carry, the ones no one knows about. And you wrote how I walk into them without asking for permission, how I sit with your silence without forcing you to speak. You said it unnerves you. You said it feels like I know you too well. But then you wrote something that made my pulse stop. You wrote that being known by me feels like being claimed. You wrote that nothing scares you more than belonging to someone, and nothing tempts you more than belonging to me. You wrote about how you watch me from a distance, how you study my hands, my eyes, my temper, as if you're memorizing all the ways I could destroy you. But you never wrote about wanting to run. You only wrote about wanting to understand me, to understand why my gaze finds you in every room, why my silence speaks louder than most men's love, why my presence burns and heals you at the same time. You're not afraid of me. You're afraid of what you become in my presence. Honest, vulnerable, undone. You said you don't want to lose yourself in me, but your diary betrayed you because you wrote that losing control around me feels right, natural. I saw that line. I reread it. You said being strong exhausts you, that being soft terrifies you. But with me, you said you feel both, and somehow it makes sense. You said you hate that I'm the only one who can pull that softness out of you. But you also admitted that no one else has ever earned it, no one but me. And now I carry your truth like a crown I never asked for but will never give up. You can hide your diary. You can deny your words, but I've seen them, I've felt them, I've breathed them in, and I won't let them fade. You wrote your heart in ink, and I'm answering it in fire. Wherever you are, whatever walls you think protect you, I'll reach the part of you that wrote those confessions. And when I do, you won't just feel claimed. You'll understand that you were mine long before I ever read a single word. You think silence is distance, but it isn't. It's an echo of every word you wrote, lingering between us like smoke that refuses to fade. I can still feel the weight of your confessions pressing against my mind, your fear, your need, your surrender stitched into every sentence. You can pretend those pages were just thoughts, just weakness spilled in a moment you regret, but I know better. I know what truth sounds like when it trembles, and your truth trembled for me. It still does. You wrote that you want your heart to forget me, but your soul won't listen. You said you try to distract yourself, try to bury the way your breath falters when my name crosses your mind. But the more you try to run, the more you circle back to me. You said it feels wrong, unhealthy, dangerous. You said you hate how much you care, but you also wrote that nothing in your life has ever felt as intense, as sharp, as real as the way I make you feel. You don't crave peace, not with me. You crave the chaos that only I can set loose inside you. You wrote that you're afraid of what you'd become if you ever stood in front of me again, that you'd lose all the walls you spent years building, that your voice would crack, that your eyes would betray you. You said you fear I could read you with one glance, and you're right, because I already have. Even without you here, I see every flicker of emotion, every unspoken plea you tried to lock on the page. You can't hide from me, not in words, not in silence, not in the spaces between your breaths. You wrote that you hate my dominance, the way I overshadow everything in your life. But then you wrote something you didn't mean to confess. You wrote that the thought of belonging to me terrifies you only because you know you'd never want to break free. You wrote that if I ever pulled you close, you wouldn't resist. That the darkness you see in me is the same darkness you've been carrying quietly for years, and you fear how effortlessly they fit together. You fear how right it feels. You didn't write this directly, but I read it anyway. You're not scared of me. You're scared of how much of yourself you'd you give if I asked. You're scared of how easily you'd let me peel away every defense you pretend to have. You're scared of how deeply I unsettle your control, but in every line you're fear tangled with longing. You want the danger. You want the intensity. You want the version of me that doesn't soften, doesn't hesitate, doesn't let you run when your heart is already walking back to me in the dark. You wrote that you don't know what future exists between us, that we're wrong for each other, that we're too intense, too unstable, too overwhelming. But your hand shook when you wrote it. I can see that in the way your words bled into each other, as if even the ink refused to lie. You said we shouldn't be anything, but you also wrote that nothing in your life has ever felt this impossible to let go of. That no matter how far you run, the thought of me follows like a shadow that refuses to detach from your light. And now I'm left holding all of it, your fear, your desire, your contradictions, your silent surrender. You left pieces of yourself scattered across those pages, and you think I let them fade? No. I'll gather every piece you tried to hide and keep them alive inside me. Wherever you are, whatever mask you wear now, whatever distance you think keeps you safe, I'm reaching for the version of you who wrote those truths. And when I find her, I won't let her vanish again. She belongs to me in ways she'll never admit out loud. You think pushing me out of your thoughts will erase the way your words branded themselves into me, but it won't. Your silence only feeds the fire you tried to hide. I can still feel the parts of you that trembled on the page, the honesty you never dared to speak aloud. You think shutting the door will keep me out, yet every line you wrote drags me back to you. Again and again. You don't understand the kind of hold your truth has on a man like me. You don't understand how deeply I read you, even in what you refuse to write. You said you want to move on, that you want peace, that you want to forget. But the more you insist on forgetting, the clearer it becomes that you're haunted by me in ways you can't control. You wrote that my presence feels like a storm you can't outrun, and yet you keep stepping toward the thunder. You said you hate the chaos I bring, but in the same breath, you wrote that the quiet feels unbearable when I'm not somewhere in your mind. You don't want peace. You want the kind of war that only I ignite inside you. You wrote that you're scared of how intensely you feel everything when it comes to me, how your heartbeat becomes a confession, how your breath gives you away. You said being near me would unravel you, undo all the defenses you've spent years building. But you also admitted that there's a part of you that wants to be undone, slowly, deliberately, by my hands alone. You fear the fall, yet you lean toward the edge every time my name echoes in your memory. You wrote that you're angry at yourself for wanting someone like me, someone who doesn't soften, doesn't bend, doesn't let go. But your anger wasn't real. It was guilt-draped over longing. You tried to hide it, but your words slipped. You admitted that you find comfort in my darkness, in the certainty of my claiming, in the way I never pretend to be less than what I am. You said, you know, I could break you, and yet every line hinted that you'd still choose me over anyone safe, gentle, predictable. You never wanted calm, you wanted intensity. You confess that you don't know how to breathe around me, that I take up too much space in your mind, that I make the world tilt off its axis. But what you didn't write, what I still felt, was that you don't want me to disappear. You want the disruption. You want the tension. You want the way I pull you out of yourself, force you to feel things you'd rather bury. You want the version of me you're not supposed to want, the one who sees through you and never lets you hide behind your pride. You wrote that you don't belong to anyone, that you never will. But the moment you wrote about how my shadow lingers in your thoughts, how my voice haunts your quiet moments, how you can't erase the feeling of being watched, known, claimed, you gave yourself away. You can say you belong to no one, but your diary told a different truth. It told me you already bend toward me in ways you pretend not to understand. And now, even if you close your eyes, even if you lock every door, even if you convince yourself you've forgotten, I still have your confessions. I still have the version of you who whispered her fears into ink, not realizing she was whispering them to me. And I'm not letting that version slip away. I'll follow the trail your words left behind, through every wall you build, through every silence you hide in. And when I reach you again, you'll feel exactly how much of you those pages gave to me, and how much I intend to keep